The videos at Black Bear Forge are made possible in part through support from viewers like you through Patreon and channel memberships. Bending forks and scroll forks are really handy for getting scrolls and other curved objects just right. But you need a variety of them. And as I look at working on this project, the gate project, and I've got these really kind of tight scrolls up here, my smallest bending forks don't really fit. So before I get back to this project, I need to take a break and I need to make some smaller bending forks. These will be a little bit light, delicate, not a heavy tool that you'll want to abuse, but one that should get the job done. Lots of different ways you can make bending forks. The fastest thing you could do is just take 2 round pins and weld them onto a piece of square bar, call it done, get back to work. But I want to make a tool that I'm going to be proud to use for years to come. So I'm going to do what I've done for most of my bending forks, and that is make them out of a piece of road grader blade. That's something Francis Whitaker used to advocate for. Really tough steel. I don't bother to harden it and temper it. I just make the bending fork, get it the way I want it, and then I can get back to work with it. I also think I'm going to make a double bending fork, so that's going to have one size on one side of the handle, one size on the other. Seems like a practical option. I don't know if it really is. I've seen lots of people that have them, but I've never made one that way, so this is a good excuse to try that out. Anyways, I think I've got a hunk of road grader blade outside the shop, so let's get that and let's get to work. Now, a few people had asked about the new plasma cutter, and I will do a video about why I finally broke down and bought myself a nice plasma cutter, but that'll be a topic for a full video. I started with way more material than I need for a single bending fork. I think I'm actually going to get 3 out of this. the bending forks cool in vermiculite overnight. That anneals them and makes them much easier to cut, file, grind, whatever you need to do to these to actually shape the fork parts. And these are going to have a fork on this side and a different size fork on the other side. And I'll actually end up with 4 sizes because I got 2 like this. This one I'm going to split the other way and bend it just so it's a little bit different style of bending fork. Another thing I've seen people using that I've never tried myself, and I figured I had extra material, so I would do that. Really got a lot of stuff out of this. The handles were longer than they need to be. And I even have a little chunk left over that I can make some sort of a drift or other tool out of. So I think I'm going to start with the smaller one of these and make it the smallest that I think I can get away with on this project. Then I'll make the other side a little bit bigger, and we'll just see how that goes. This one then will be 2 sizes larger, and hopefully all of these will have some usefulness. Well, these all seem to work the way I expected them to, and are going to make a great addition to my collection of bending forks. I think this is really going to be interesting to use. There's just something about the different angle of approach to the material that I think is going to make this one of my favorite bending forks. May have to make some larger ones that are similar. Really like this one. I like the way it looks. The proportions are good. 2 different sizes of forks on it, nice comfortable handle. I cut these handles way back from what I had forged because I don't want to put too much leverage on these really delicate bending forks. I want to make sure that I can't really crank on them, or I'll bend them or I'll break the tines. And speaking of breaking the tines, I also took a lot more time filing and grinding and took these down to a 220 grit finish to make sure there weren't any stress risers in these tines because they're so small, they'd be easy to crack and break off. Don't worry about it quite so much with the big ones, plus they're easier to get in there and file when you need to file the bigger ones. But I wanted to really make sure these were going to be substantial. And this one's fairly heavy. The tines on this are about 1/4 inch square, and the edges are heavily rounded over, so they're not really round, not really square, but they shouldn't leave a mark, and they're pretty substantial. This little itty bitty one though is quite a bit smaller. These smallest ones are about 3/16 of an inch. Very small opening, very limited usefulness, I think. But it'd be so easy to break this. I have to make sure I'm always using it on hot material. If the material starts to get cold, I need to reheat, because I think that it would be easy to damage this. I also made this a little bit too sharp in here. I would have liked a little bit of radius on the outside to give it a little bit more support at the base. Unfortunately, I got carried away, so if it breaks off, I either just grind it off and make it a one-sided one, or I'm going to have to make another one, something like that. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I did not harden and temper these. I'm just leaving these as normalized, and that way they're good and tough, but I'd rather have them bend than break. And if they're hardened and they develop any stresses, there's a good chance they could break. So unless I have to harden them because they bend way too easily, that's the way I'll leave them. I did do a test with one of the straps that I cut off when I was preparing the material for this. It does not air harden. It did get pretty good and hard in oil. So if I had to harden them, I'd oil harden them and then temper them way back so they are not real hard, and that would reduce the risk of cracking quite a bit. Again, I'd like to thank my channel members and my Patreon patrons. Channel members get early access to most of the videos here at Black Bear Forge, while paid members over on Patreon not only receive the early access, they get the video ad-free because it's hosted on Patreon. Anyways, I do hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you have time in your day to get out to your shop. Make something, but stay safe. Wear your safety glasses. We'll see you for the next video.